right, so today we're going to start our next religious tradition, our fourth religious tradition in our class, which is Christianity. So I'm a little bit in a different spot on the screen for this one, so that you could see the picture behind me and the quotation as well. So a couple of opening remarks about our unit on Christianity. The first one is that I just want to be clear that we're going to use the term Christian in its proper format, which is that when I talk about Christianity and when we talk about Christians, I'm referring to all of the three major denominations or three major branches within Christianity. So the three major branches of Christianity are Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant. So I just wanted to be clear on that because for some reason, I'm not exactly sure why, the term Christian oftentimes in conversation has come to mean something more narrow. I don't know if you've ever heard people talking and say, oh, I'm Catholic, you're Christian, right? So oftentimes now people use Christian sort of as meaning like just Protestant, basically, or just a certain type of Protestantism. I just want to be clear that when we're talking about Christianity, we're going to talk about all of those three major branches. Orthodox and Catholic Christianity are the oldest forms, so we're going to talk about the history of those two churches. The Catholic Church arose in Western Europe, the Orthodox Church arose in Eastern Europe, and those two split apart. And then Protestantism, Protestant Christianity, comes about only after the Protestant Reformation, which happens in the 16th century. So basically, everything that's not Catholic or Orthodox is Protestant. So Protestant is kind of an umbrella catch-all term for all forms of Christianity that start after the Protestant Reformation. So this would include Lutherans and Methodists and Baptists and evangelicals. And we're also going to include, think of this, that this includes Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, all of those types of denominations. It doesn't mean that there is a uniformity among all of those traditions. You probably know that there are a lot of differences in belief and traditions and practices, but it really just refers to everything that starts after the Protestant Reformation. And as we'll see, there are certain aspects of the Protestant Reformation that all of those traditions do have in common. So that's just the first explanatory mark that I wanted to say. I'm not quite sure why some people really just kind of have narrowed the word to mean a certain form of Protestantism, but that's really not true to the word. The second thing that I want to note is that usually when I teach world religions, a majority of my students come from a Christian background. Looking at your introductions, you guys are a very diverse group of students, which is wonderful. But usually just, sort of teaching in Southern California, majority of students come from a Christian background. They were raised Christian or currently practice Christianity. So I just want to say to those of you, if that's true for you, don't tune out. Don't skip through the video lectures or the reading. Learning about Christianity from an outsider academic perspective, you're going to learn a lot about your own tradition. That is my hope and my goal for this unit, is that even those who are very familiar with this tradition, you're going to learn a lot that you didn't know before. So studying it from an outsider academic perspective, right, you're going to learn more about the history, the creeds, the different disagreements, different understandings. So just know that you're going to be learning a lot more than what you would normally learn in like a Sunday school class or something like that. So I think it'll be very interesting as well for those who grew up in the tradition to learn a lot more about the tradition that you are already familiar with. So those are my two opening notes before we got into our quotation down here. So our quote for Christianity comes from the Christian Bible. It comes from a section known as John, the Gospel of John. And it says that, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that all who believe in him will not perish but have eternal life." This is a very concise a very concise way of saying sort of the core, the crux of Christian belief. The he here, or sorry, the son here, that this quotation is talking about is a person named Jesus. So we'll talk a lot about this individual Jesus, when he lived, what he did during his life. But this individual is the core of Christianity. So Christianity revolves around his life, death, and belief in his resurrection, that he lived again after he died. And that he has, you can see in this quote, he has a special connection to God. So Christians around the world have always disagreed and had different interpretations of what that connection is to God. And Prothero goes over this in detail. But Christians share this understanding that Jesus had some sort of special connection to God. Different metaphors, different terms have been used for that. That he is God, he's the Son of God, the love of God, the presence of God, a messenger of God, the voice of God, the face of God. So there's lots of different ways of understanding this connection that Christians have had over their 2,000-year history. But this individual Jesus has a special connection to God. And in the beginning of the statement, you can see that it says, "For God so loved the world." Jesus is also understood to have a special connection, not just to God, but to the love of God. So Jesus' mission, his purpose of living life here and his ministry and teaching is also seen by all Christians to have a special connection specifically to the love of God. That is what Jesus came to show or to teach others about. So you can see we have this individual who has a special connection to God. He has a special connection to the love of God. And he also died. Doesn't have it in this quotation here. But Christianity also has a lot to do with death, life, and resurrection. So Jesus himself is believed to have died and come back to life. And for Christians, that means that is possible for human beings as well. That something about his death and resurrection signaled that was now a possibility for all human beings to have. So there's a diversity of understandings in terms of how that works, why that is. But in general, something that all Christians share is that connection between Jesus and God, that connection between Jesus and the love of God, and that his death and resurrection is something that has implications for all of humanity. So that is a little bit about the tradition that we're going to study next. So the next thing that we're going to go through is the historical overview of some of the major events in the 2,000-year history of Christianity.